the topic of tonight's event is how to be the most effective change manager or change agent in the world. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm like the third or fourth best in the world, so I'm looking forward to how to be the number one. And yeah, essentially, Richard has given a talk with us before. It's been a couple of years. I still vividly remember it though, because it was a super interesting talk on the psychology of Agile and childhood trauma and how that's carried into the professional workspace. So I'm really glad that Richard is giving another talk with us tonight, and I'm looking forward to learn more. And Clare North will be accompanying Richard as a tag team. I believe it's her first time presenting here with Agnostic Agile, so welcome, Clare. So essentially, I'm going to hand over to you guys now. Feel free to, continue the introductions or, handing over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, it's great to be back. Yeah, won't be quite so heavy this time. We won't be diving deep into your childhood traumas today. So it'll be a bit lighter, but just as impactful. And that is the promise that we will show you how to become one of the best change agents in the world. Aim big, hey? So who can give me a thumbs up, excited for today's event? A few. Good. Thank you. Double thumbs up from David. Thank you. Yeah, this should be a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll provide you with some fresh insights for those of you engaged in being change agents. Anything else you'd like to say, Claire, before we kick off?
No, all good. Thanks, Richard.
Good. So we've got a little teaser for you, just to get so you can get to know each other a bit and get into this topic. So our question to you guys is, and we'd just like you to go into pairs now, and Claire's going to set up some breakout rooms. It's very simple. What does being a change agent mean to you? So you're going to be randomly assigned into a pair now, and all we're going to do is ask you to answer that question. What does being a change agent mean to you? What does being a change agent mean to you? So it'll just be for 90 seconds. So it'll give you like a chance to each answer the sentence, and then we're going to come back in. So Claire, could you hit the button?
Yeah, just to let you know, you may find yourself in a 3 as well. So it might be a pair or a 3. So I'm going to go for it now.
For those who have just joined and you missed the instruction, we're just doing a quick warm-up exercise, a quick teaser. I'm just going to get you into pairs or 3s and ask you to answer the question, what does being a change agent mean to you? What does being a change agent mean to you? What does being a change agent?
Hello.
Hi, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I've got the delights of a 2-year-old full of snot.
Well, I've got a puppy, so that's the closest that I can relate.
Oh, we've got that one too.
Oh, lovely.
He said, hello.
Hello.
So yeah, he's there. So yeah, the question, what does being a change agent mean to you?
Well, it's a good question. I guess changing people's minds, changing people's mindsets, changing their behaviors, destroying the status quo. So getting rid of the status quo, moving on somewhere else. That's hopefully a bit better for us collectively.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it, I suppose. Moving towards a more positive future,
Yes.
How about you?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's, it's even like going to like a deeper core sort of aspect of like being embodying the openness that comes with change.
Yeah.
So sort of, showing vulnerability, showing, that characteristic and charisma around sort of challenge, but in a non-confrontational way, that it comes without agenda and it comes without your own personal bias. And if it is bias, then at least you are clear on the mechanism you're delivering it, whether it's like teaching or whether it's coaching or whether it's instructional, because not everything that we do in this business is not without opinion and doesn't come from a place of expertise. So I think it's just making sure that whatever.
Okay. So just as people are coming back in, would anybody like to share the answer to that question? I'm not going to ask everyone now, but just get a bit of a sampling from the group. Anybody like to share the answer they gave to the partner in their breakout?
I guess I'll start since everyone's being shy. Hello.
Hello.
For me personally, first of all, I don't like the word change. I think the obvious example is government. Hey, we want change. Well, let's go from a conservative to a liberal or Labour government, and nothing really happens, does it? But essentially, for me, change is something concrete, meaning if you're, say, doing a transformation, for example, it's something tangible, something concrete that you can see moved from one or morphed from one idea to another, and that people can actually physically, mentally, psychologically see that change and feel that change. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, David. Something tangible. Yeah. Anybody else?
Happy to share. Oh.
No, go ahead.
I think for me, one of the biggest things of being change agent is accepting you don't know all the answers and constantly learning.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Tina.
And sorry, from my perspective, it's about leading the change of mindset to one of continual evolution and continual learning. Almost contradicting what I said earlier. It's not about changing and done. It's about continually evolving.
Thanks, nice.
We're in the middle of a transformation at the moment, and people keep saying to me, when will it be done? It won't be done.
We were talking about like facilitating change, which might have 2 aspects. So on the one hand, helping people to find out what needs to be changed and why, and where they want to go. And then on the other hand, then to give them structures and processes to make that change happen. When I say structure, not structure in terms of a new organization structure, but structures for like workshops and meetings where they can work on change topics.
Yeah. Okay. One more before we dive into something else. Bill, I think you were going to come in, weren't you?
Yeah, so I was going to say being a change agent for me is helping others through the sometimes psychological process of changing their behavior, their mindset, their attitude. It usually involves helping them destroy the status quo and move to like the new pastures. So there can be loads of things that go with that. They can be very attached to it. So it's kind of like helping people along the journey is how I would describe being a change agent.
Thanks. Well, thank you for participating in that, and some wonderful perspectives there, and some of which I think we'll probably end up going deeper on through the course of this session. But it's great to hear that, and great for us to have started thinking about what it means to be a change agent. So I'll briefly share with you the flow for this session, and let's see if you can see this. Okay, are you seeing this okay here?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. So we've just done that. So the flow today, we're probably going to use the full 90 minutes, so up to the end of the 90-minute slot that we've all got, which I guess is going to be different times.
Richard, I'm seeing a presenter window.
Yeah, could you clear that off for us, Richard?
Aha.
Thank you, Richard.
So are you not seeing the right?
We saw it, just that we had the button on there which said this is the presenter view just for you. So just need to click on the got it and you would have got rid of it.
So
while you're doing that, Nabil, brilliant. Well done you for the contingency of getting us all onto Zoom. I think we're all very grateful for you having the emotional resilience to keep going.
Thank you very much, Melanie. Massively appreciated and great to see you.
Okay.
Nabil, you're the best. You're one of my favorites, so you're up there.
Okay. Are you seeing a bearded man with the green t-shirt?
Yes.
Good. So we're going to look at the nature of seeking change. We're going to spend a bit of time and give you the opportunity to explore who you are as a change agent. I'm going to be introducing this term embodiment, which may be more or less familiar to you. What does embodiment mean? What does your embodiment mean as it relates to being a change agent? We're going to look at this concept of holding space, particularly how that pertains to the paradox that we often see at play when we're dealing with change. And we're going to pull it all together and answer the question, how do we pull these threads together to have you be one of the best change agents in the world? Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Any? Good. Well, let's kick off with our first exercise, and I'm going to hand over to Claire, who is going to take us through this.
So having had a few moments to think about what being a change agent means to you, we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're going to deepen our exploration of what it's like to be seeking change, to have that desire to change things and make things better. So this session is about becoming one of the best change agents on the planet, and implicit in that is an assumption that being a change agent is a good thing, right? There's something good about that, something positive, and acknowledging that we are going to spend a little bit of time looking at the upside and downside of trying to change things. So there's the exercise that we're going to do is going to give us some time to acknowledge the upside and downside of being a change agent. And the reason that we're doing that will become a little bit more clear as we start to talk about paradoxes a bit later, but this is kind of our warm up into the notion of paradoxes. So we're going to use this tool that you can see on the screen called a 4 square, and you can see that there we have kind of the two sides of the coin, seeking change and accepting things as they are, and there's upsides and downsides, or positives and negatives of each of those. So as a group, we're gonna have a go at exploring that using Mural. I wonder if Richard, you could put the link into the chat, and I'm going to share my screen briefly with the Mural on it now, just in case anybody hasn't used it before and needs a little bit of a pointer. But if you have used it before and you know what to do, you can double click to make your own little post-it, and you can write your idea anywhere that you want to start on the mural. So I can see a few people in there already. So let's go for it. I'm gonna put one in the top here that just says less stress. So have a think about your experiences of seeking to change things or accepting things as they are. And what were the upsides and downsides of that? What were the positives and negatives of that? You can see that post-its are starting to appear, so thank you. Yeah, we need some different zoom levels on some of these, don't we, I think? I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So just a few minutes adding any ideas that you have. You may find that you see some similar ideas to yours, so feel free to group things together. If you see something similar come up. It looks like a lot of folks have got the hang of that, so thank you. Let's keep going. So plenty in the top half. Let's have a look, see if we can get a few more in the bottom half. Okay, still a few being added, maybe starting to slow down a little bit. If it helps, maybe think about something specific that you were involved in, and maybe you can come up with a real specific example of an upside or a downside. Okay, that's getting pretty full. And maybe if you've kind of come to the end of your ideas, have a look around at what other people have added. Maybe you can group some things together that seem similar, seem related for you. I'm going to stop sharing, but please carry on with adding ideas if you have them still, or grouping things together if you're still working through that. So any observations from looking at the up and downside of accepting things as they are and seeking change? Any surprises or other observations?
I think it's really good to ask the question, the negatives of accepting things as they are. The power of that question makes people question whether or not the current stability is the best thing.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we often talk about the benefits, don't we? And the flip side of that, of what happens if we stay the same, can be missed.
Similarly, exploring the negatives of seeking change is important, because you don't want to cause too much disruption or too much, psychological duress at hammering people with loads of different things. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah, and as a change agent, there can be upsides and downsides for us as human beings. The energy of that, the energy that has to be put into that too. Yeah. Would anyone else like to contribute an observation? Okay.
But something I noticed that isn't there in the positive accepting things as they are, and we might come back to this, is how often have you been in that position where you don't do anything, you simply accept the things the way they are, and the thing that you wanted to have changes anyway. Right? The change happens anyway, and that's something we might come back to.
Yeah, so we're going to come back to this notion of pros and cons, and maybe one or the other. So this is looking at sort of an and. What is the upside and downside of both of these stances that we can take? So we're going to come back and talk about that in the context of paradox a little bit later. So Richard, do you want to ready to take us through the next part?
Okay, so assuming that many of us here want to be in the camp of seeking to change in some way, you know, we're agilists, albeit agnostic ones, and we want to foment some form of change in our organisations. It's useful for us to explore a little bit about ourselves as change agents and who we're being as change agents, and what does me, Richard, as a change agent working at my best, what does that look like? It's a question worth reflecting on. That's what we're going to ask you to consider in the next few minutes. So we're going to use, how many thumbs up if you come across clean language? Has that been explored on one or two agnostic agile so far? So a few of you have. So for those of you who have, you'll recognize the style of question I'm about to employ. And then we're going to pivot from this exercise into something else. But the clean language question we're going to ask is, you know, as a change agent, when you're working at your best, that's like what? As a change agent, when you're working at your best, that's like what? And I'm going to ask for a volunteer just to demonstrate this technique with me firstly, and then we're going to put you into pairs, and you can work on this in your pairs. So who'd like to work with me a little bit before we dive in? Do I have a volunteer?
Go on then, Richard.
Thank you, Melanie. All right, so the question is, Melanie, when, you know, as a change agent, when you're working at your best, that's like what?
Driving at full throttle along the coast from Nice to Monaco.
And when you are driving at full throttle along the coast from Nice to Monaco, that's like what?
That's like fresh air and happiness.
And fresh air and happiness. And when you're experiencing fresh air and happiness, that's like what?
Being the most glad to be alive.
And when you're most glad to be alive, that's like what?
Complete, feeling complete.
Feeling complete. When you're feeling complete, that's like what?
That I am self-actualizing. I'm being the best I can possibly be.
You're self-actualizing the best you could possibly be. Awesome. Thank you, Melanie. Round of applause for Melanie for stepping up and bravely volunteering. So it's really simple, right? You're just continuing to ask this question, like, as a change agent, when you're working at your best, that's like what? It gives you some kind of answer. You key on that word. So Melanie told me it was like, you know, driving with the roof down from along the coast from Nice to Monaco. So then you simply say, when you're driving, you know, with the top down along the coast from Nice to Monaco, that's like what? And I'm going to invite you to do 3 or 4 rounds of that, so people really get to the essence of who they're being when they're a change agent working at their best. So we're going to do this in pairs. I think it's going to be best for us to do this in pairs. Does anybody have a question before we, you know, go into this exercise? I know I'm throwing you in here. Is this making sense? So as a change agent, I'll put the question in the chat here. When you're working at your best, that's like what? And then they're going to give you an answer, and then you say, and that's like what? And you do that 3 or 4 rounds. Okay. All right. So, Claire, if you can fire us up, and we'll tell you when we're going to ask you to swap. And then hopefully we'll get some rich answers.
Yeah. Just bear with me. You might find you're in a 3. It shouldn't be too many of 3s. So let's just opening the rooms now. So Richard, we've actually only got 2 minutes duration. So I didn't change that when I set it up. So we may need to put them back in.
Hello.
Just alone in my breakout room.
We pair up then. Let's do it.
Okay. So for me, being a change agent and feeling good, yeah. So what's the question? Yeah, when I.
So
Yeah,
would you like me to ask the question to you first?
Yeah, yeah.
So he put it in the chat, but I can't see it. So as a change agent, when you're at your best, that's like what?
When I interact a lot of people, when I'm asking more questions, then I'm giving advice, yeah. And then I'm listening to the feedback, yeah, and I feel the chemistry.
Right. And as you're asking questions and as you're getting feedback and as you're getting feeling chemistry, that's like what?
Feelings that things are working, yeah. So that we as a organization, we are on the good track.
Okay.
Or on the right track, yeah.
And when things are working and when the organization is on the right track, that's like what?
Customer will be happy and employees too. So stakeholders will be happy, yeah. And me probably.
I hope so.
And my bank account too, yeah.
And when your bank account is full, that's like what?
Yeah. It's hard to imagine.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, and what by you, Melanie?
You heard me. I'm still driving along the coast between Nice and Monaco, happy as ever. I love when change comes together. It feels so motivating because I think we're improving and I think we're moving forward and that we're not getting left behind. And that's really what motivates me, I think, to be an agent of change.
Yeah, I just want to apologise. I gave you a shorter duration than we intended there, so it was pretty quick activity. So we're wondering about giving you a little bit longer. I didn't find a way to change the time for that. So we're thinking maybe another few minutes in there to work through that in pairs. So I'll just give you 4 minutes this time. Does that sound okay, Richard?
Yeah, we've got it. It was a bit short here from pure.
Yeah. Okay. I can see a couple of people have been in rooms on their own, so I'm just going to move folks around once you join. Okay, let's have another go. So Richard, could you read out the question again?
Yes, as a change agent, when you're working at your best, that's like what?
Okay, here we go.
So presumably, Claire, you can see there are some.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Oliver's on his own, and
yeah. Wait, are you able to move, folks?
I can. I think it may
I'm doing
cause a problem if both of us are trying to do.
Yeah, I'm doing it. It's okay. Okay, so people have the option then if they want to join another room.
Nabil, are you just getting? You're not getting an optional.
I didn't get an option, no. I was about to join that person who wasn't in a group, but you guys moved him to another group. room, so no problem. Because I'm the host, also the host, so I don't get the option, I think.
I see.
Yeah.
Oliver or Stephanie, are you're not being given an option here, or?
Yeah, some folks, there were some messages saying they didn't have the setup and weren't able to join the rooms. There's a few messages in the chat.
Stephanie just said she's back now. Hopefully she can, there we go.
So come on, Nabil, what was your answer?
Mine was, we never got around to mine. So I did the other person in my pair previously, but we didn't have time to get to mine. For me, it's just, I get a great satisfaction from helping other people. So seeing the behavior change, the mindset change, I find that super, super rewarding. And it's because I'm not technical and I work with all these other technical people usually. So it's, that's my way of contributing to them and their lives. So I find it very satisfying to help other people, particularly in their behavioral ways and how they act.
Right. So that's something like helping other people. So when you're working at a change agent at your best, you're helping other people.
Definitely.
And helping other people, that's like what?
That is like, it's like feeling very satisfied, feeling like I'm contributing, feeling like I'm having a positive impact on people's lives in a professional capacity.
And when you're having a positive impact on people's lives, that's like what?
It's like feeling happy, like feeling motivated, like feeling worthy, feeling happy.
Feeling happy, feeling worthy. And when you're feeling worthy and happy, that's like what?
That is like being the best version of me. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. We're all filing back in. I can see a few smiles. I'm hoping that's a good sign. Any of you smilers like to share? Let's start with the happy customers first on how you find that exercise. Like, did you get to an expression of you at your best as a change agent?
Okay, I'll jump in again.
Thanks, David.
Jump into the fire. It's very similar to an exercise I did yesterday on Miro, because I have a new game and it's really about getting to know other people and individuals. So it's nice to see what I was pretty quick at knowing what I wanted, but I haven't seen that in a long time, but I have certainly felt it before. Things like exhilaration, walking on air, that kind of stuff, feeling a certain amount of freedom. So that it's funny, just saying that I feel like, oh, that's I want to get that out there. And then on the other side, I'm not sure if we're allowed to comment on the other side, but you get a sense of who that person is.
Right.
You can sort of see a direction where they're potentially going. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, David, and thanks for jumping in again in the plenary. I know it's.
I have a tendency to jump, so.
Anybody else like to share?
I can say that certain things never change, right? About the but I would like to share that at least I was doing this with Nenad, and we are kind of converging to this a certain essence of the fulfillment of trying to contribute to others and feeling connected to the others, to the team, and feeling good about co-elevating others. I think more or less that's the idea, and not exactly these words that we more or less, but I think the meaning was very similar.
Thanks, Orlando. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Bruce.
Hi, Bruce.
Yes, I'm talking with Lee. I think that what we discussed at the end of our challenge, that to me, I think that we talking the same thing, but the way we experience or interpret our, end or success could be different.
Right.
Yeah, would be talking the same thing.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Different. Yeah, different interpretation. Yeah. Anybody else?
I have no idea what you do on weekends, but Becca and I, we just changed the universe. We are full of energy and in control.
Wow. Full of energy and in control, changing the universe. Well, we must have a contender for being one of the best change agents on the planet, surely. Wonderful. Okay, fabulous. All right, well, thank you all for going with that. Well, anybody just before we check, was there anybody that just didn't work for or they got stuck with? Is there anybody who's like, what the hell are you asking us to do that didn't work? Is there anybody in that camp?
I think for me, I liked it. And when I was talking to my group with Joe and Alistair, I just kind of said, I don't think I'm brave enough to use, like clean language in a setting unless, like in my coaching training, I now kind of go the processing of like, questioning yourself and reflecting. But unless I set it up properly, I can imagine people where I'm working, they're just like, why is she repeating and annoying me and asking me the same thing over? Like, I think you have to have a proper setup and explanation of it before.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, certainly, you kind of have to hold the weirdness, right? You have to like consciously know this is weird. You know it's weird. They know it's weird. You both know it's weird, but you just have to keep asking the question. It's it's definitely like one of the facets, I think, of adopting this approach is that like staying with the weirdness. Okay, so the next part of this is slightly less weird. So we're going to take that spirit that you imagine yourself you're in, so you've articulated and you've got that sense of who you're being as a change agent working at your best. And then can you express that as a commitment, and we're going to work with this when we come into the embodiment part of this session. But this is going to be simple. I'm just going to ask you to work individually and reflect. And if you've got a notepad in front of you, that's great. Or if you've got somewhere you can type. And I'm simply going to ask you to answer or complete the sentence. I am a commitment to. I am a commitment to. So imagine yourself. You're in that space. You're working as a change agent as your best. What commitment are you representing in that moment? I am a commitment to. I am a commitment to. So reflect when you're a change agent working at your best, you're in that state. What's your commitment? I am a commitment to. Answer that question. Either on a notepad if you've got one, or just type.
You mean I am committed to something? Is that what you mean?
Claire, do you want to come in? You chose this particular phrasing.
So yes and no. So the distinction, the language sounds a bit strange. So it is equivalent in a way to I am committed to, absolutely. the reason the language is used in this way, I am a commitment to, relates to integrating it into our sense of who we are. So rather than me being committed to something else that's over there, it's more like I am a commitment to, I embody, and we'll get to embodiment. Everything about me is a commitment to something. Does that make sense, that distinction? No?
No.
No, but I'm sure if you do embodiment, then it might make sense.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. So you know, just listening to some of the you know, some of the contributions that were made just now, you know, I heard words like exhilaration, fulfillment, connecting to others, full of energy. So it might be I am a commitment to any of those things. And
well, David's put the dictionary definition of commitment into the chat to help me out.
Exactly. It helped me out, so I thought I'd share it. Yeah.
So give it a go.
So yeah, give it a go, dive in. I know this, you know, is slightly unusual, but just complete the sentence, I am a commitment to. Write it in a notebook. Get up a notes page on your computer, whatever it is, but I am a commitment to.
We have I'm a commitment to perfection. We have a few things coming through the chat. To taking a step towards better. Wonderful. And commitments can be made in different contexts. I'm noticing a few different contexts. So there can be, you know, a commitment to something in the broader aspect of our lives. So, you know, I've had a commitment around freedom. And then I'm noticing, you know, in the context of change, we can have, being a change agent, we can have commitment too. So there can be commitments at different levels, and I'm noticing those in the chat as they're coming in. Now.
To what the other person was saying, it just feels a lot more natural to say commitment rather than committed. I had committed in my head, but commitment came out.
Interesting. Okay.
Calm, resilience, and fearlessness.
Okay, so it's looking like everyone's making some progress with that, or a lot of folks are making some progress with that. We're ready to carry on, Richard? Yeah. So now you have your commitment expressed in words. We're going to develop that a bit further and turn it into an embodied commitment. So maybe some of the mystery around embodiment will be revealed as we do this. And that what embodiment really means is about getting familiar with the felt sense of something. So I'm noticing, you know, there was words like fearlessness or exhilaration, and those words they have a felt sense inside of us when we are exhilarated or when we're fearless. So it's about So embodiment is about being able to experience that, to really be it, to make it, you know, integrate it as a part of ourselves, so that, you know, we really mean it, we're authentic, it's believable. So, you know, as a change agent, it's being clear about what we're committed to, but also really fully owning that and it being a part of ourselves. And this is deeper territory. You know, we've already had a little bit of weirdness. The weirdness is going to continue, and there's going to be deeper level of weirdness as we go through this, and it may feel unusual, and it may be unfamiliar. Again, some of what I do here may just not make any sense, and I'm just inviting you to have a go, to go with it if you feel able, but always to be in choice. You know, these activities are always for you to choose what you're willing to try in this moment. So to start to give you a sense of embodiment, we're going to do a little warm-up exercise, and then I'm going to help you to turn your commitment into an embodied commitment, with the idea being that this then can expand into a practice that you do regularly. So when you're thinking about being the best being your best as a change agent, and being able to have a practice that supports that on a regular basis. Now, some people like to take notes as they go along, so if that's you, get yourself something to take notes with again. But others prefer just to reflect afterwards on what the experience was, so please choose what works for you. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to do a little short exercise, and the exercise is about getting into the felt sense, meaning getting into what's happening inside of us, inside of our bodies. So it's called embodiment because it's about the body, in contrast to the brain or our head, where we think from. So it's about getting into the body. So the short exercise comes from an organisation called Strozzi, and you know, if you end up wanting to go deeper, you can look them up. They work in the leadership field and also conflict resolution. So you know, that tells us something about leadership, I guess. So I invite you to join me in this short little warm-up exercise. So I'm standing, you can stand or sit, whatever feels good for you. And we're going to just explore the 3 dimensions of our bodies in space. So starting with the dimension from top to bottom, that sometimes is called length. Start by feeling, you know, taking your awareness, seeing what you can notice or feel around the floor, whether that's your feet, it might be your feet connecting to the floor, might be through your shoes or through the socks, whatever you've got on your feet. So feeling the floor and feeling gravity. So there's like a downward direction in the body. And then the opposite part of that, connect into the sense or even maybe stretch up a little bit to feel that dimension of length. So at the same time, there's a sense of being drawn down by gravity and also lengthening up towards the sky, and that sense of possibility and you know, creativity can come from there too. So that's the dimension of length. We're going to go side to side now. So perhaps start by just noticing what you can feel. I'm going to wave my hands around, but just notice what you can feel of your ears and the sides of your shoulders. You don't need to wave your hands around if you want to, but start to connect into what you can feel of your ears, the sides of your shoulders, down your arms on the outside, and then down the side of the body, down the side of the torso, sides of the legs, and onto the edges of the feet on the outside. And then sense into your spine in the middle. And imagine that you can smooth the skin from the middle of the spine to the outside of the shoulders. So it's like you're making yourself wide across the front of the body. And then you could try the same on the back. So we're just bringing in some awareness to that width. So you may feel like you're spreading out as you sense into those parts of the body. And then the last dimension is from the back to the front. So see whether you can feel the back of the head or neck and down the back of the shoulders. moving further down towards the pelvis and the back of the legs, and just tuning in your awareness to those parts on the back of the body. And then see if you can move that awareness through your internal organs towards the front, through the bones, through the muscles, as if it's coming out of the front of your body, like shining a light out of the front of your body. Okay, so there are 3 dimensions, and that's a little warm up to get into the body. So now we're going to come back to your commitment. So maybe you need to remind yourself what your commitment was. And your commitment may be a quality like fearlessness. So see if you can find that quality in your body. So whatever your commitment is, ask yourself, what is the quality that I need to possess, to have, to embody? What is the quality I need to embody to reach that commitment? And it might be, you know, those words that came up before, for some of you, like fulfillment and fearlessness, whatever that word is for you, whatever that quality is for you. And if you're thinking, hang on, I'm not sure what she's asking here, you know, pretend you're an actor and you're on stage and you have to act that quality, whatever it is. I'm being amazing at, or whatever it is. So for me, it would be freedom. So if I was embodying freedom, I may be doing something with my arms, right? Whatever works for you, embody that. Put it into your body. And whatever that is for you, start to notice what's happening inside the body. Can you pick up any movement inside your body? What movement is there? Maybe that quality has a shape. What shape is it? Maybe it has a color. What color is it? Is it hot or is it cold? Are there places that are hot and places that are cold? Is there some kind of texture like tingling? Or, I don't know, I often get tingling. But maybe you've got a different texture. And from this place where you're embodying your commitment, acting it out, becoming it, what do you notice about the space around you? Are you forward or are you slightly backwards? Are you from one side or to one side more than the other? Where are you in space? Try to really get familiar with what embodying this commitment feels like. What can you notice about it? What emotions are present as you embody this commitment? And I'm doing this with my eyes open because, you know, we need to be able to feel this way in the real world, you know, kind of a day-to-day, to be able to feel this way, to be the best change agent you can be in the real world and in interaction with others. So that's why our eyes are open. Okay, so when you're ready, maybe you need to, you know, shuffle around a little bit. Maybe you want to make a few notes. Try to capture something about the qualities of your commitment. Maybe it had a shape or, you know, embodying your commitment. Maybe it had a shape or a color. Or you notice something about the movement or the temperature or about where you were in space, forward or backwards. Make a few notes. Just going to give you a couple of minutes of individual time to work on that. So as you're capturing this, the reason that we're doing this is because we can develop a practice around it. So as I'm going about my day to day, I can key into these qualities, and maybe for me it's standing up a little bit taller or broadening across the front of my shoulders. I can key into those qualities when I need my commitment and when I need to really embody. We use that in common language, right? Really embody this quality that relates to being at my best as a change agent. So there's a little practice we can develop that hardly, you can't really spot that I'm doing that. It's subtle, but it creates a shift in the way that we feel, and the way that therefore that we can act in the moment. Okay, so anyone like to share what that was like for you?
Hi. Yeah, I'll go. So what I liked about it was just in terms of reflecting and trying to figure out how to get in touch with the commitment that I made. And I think I need more work in terms of being able to figure out what the embodiment looks like, because I needed to close my eyes to get to an idea of what fearlessness looks like for me. And I, in thinking about it, I kind of realized, like, in terms of the true fearlessness, I don't think I've had that since until childhood, because everything when you grow up, you kind of go through your life and then you add fears in terms of how you're supposed to inhabit spaces and what not to do. So I think for me to get to my commitment towards fearlessness, I have a lot more of that activity to do to go what my childlike fearlessness was, and being able to sense it again, because I don't think I have that anymore, really.
Yeah, and I think maybe just listening, maybe what you're experiencing is quite common, that we want something, and then there's something that maybe gets in the way of that to some extent, and there's ways of working with that. So you talked about working, there's more work you need to do. There's ways of working with that as well, because that's quite often what happens is we kind of experience that, oh yeah, I really want that, and then there's a but or something that gets in the way of that. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, Claire, some of us in the chat, our commitments seem to be to other people, and me personally, any time you say something like that, I'm always committed to my son rather more than myself. So those words beforehand were things that I would certainly like to have together, but when you say a word like commitment, it's always the first word is going to be my son, and my commitment is more for his well-being than to my own well-being. And that's kind of a general theme with me, because I'm trying to help others. I'm not necessarily thinking about myself.
Yeah, and it's maybe asking yourself, if you wanted to use this way of working, it's asking yourself, what qualities do I need to embody in order to meet that commitment to my son?
Yeah.
Anything else before we carry on? Okay, so I think we're going to segue next, Richard.
Yes, thank you. So well done. And just to recap where we've been, so we did a clean language exercise where you described who you were being, working as your best as a change agent. We developed that into a statement of commitment, and we've just done some embodiment. So some or all of that may have been quite unfamiliar territory. So thank you for exploring that together with us. So another question is, well, how can we put this to use? How can we put this to use as change agents? And one of the important ways that we can put this felt sense of a commitment, of an embodiment to use is when we're holding space. So when we're holding space for others to change. And what I'm going to do just before we dive into that is just get us into pairs very briefly, and just for you to answer this question, like, what do we mean by holding space? So I'm just going to give you like a minute or two in breakout rooms with pairs or threes, and I'm just going to ask you to just briefly reflect on this question, like what do we mean by holding space? What do we mean by holding space? Does that make sense? This is the question. Yeah. What do we mean by holding space?
Okay, you ready to go?
Yeah,
you may be a 2 or a 3. Just and if you're on your own, we'll try and shift you around. So, oh, picture's inviting me. Hang on.
I hit.
Oh, you've done it. Okay. I was trying to do the breakouts at the same time.
Sorry, yeah, I realized that you were.
Yeah, sorry, it's okay. Okay, we're pretty much on time, aren't we? I think.
Yeah. Seem to have a few who've not made it to their breakouts. So Nabil, you don't get invited, is that right? You're on mute, Nabil.
Oops, my bad. I said I was looking out to see if anyone was
by sure, by themselves. Yeah,
just to try to help. But everyone's paired.
Nice.
Got 30 seconds.
And then they'll get a minute. So yeah.
I gave them 30 seconds to come back this time.
Oh, okay.
Just keep people on their toes, They all come back pretty quick.
Yeah.
So.
That's good.
Oh, it says 60 seconds. Oh, you did it. I didn't do it. So it's 60 seconds. Oh, brilliant. Too many cooks.
Yeah, something I've worked out with you can recreate the rooms. So when you've ended up with less participants, you can recreate the rooms, and then
yeah,
it's a bit easier. So you're in London somewhere, Nabil?
I'm in West London, yeah. How about you?
I'm out in the sticks, in the Suffolk countryside.
Ah, lovely.
Yeah, so I've moved out of London since I last did the last time I came and did.
I just bought a house here, so I'm not going to move anywhere anytime soon.
Nice.
Yeah, I've moved out to the countryside. I used to be near Manchester, like nearly in the middle of Manchester. So, yeah. Welcome back.
Welcome. Okay. Anybody want to venture an answer to this question? What do we mean by holding space?
Yeah, sure. I'll say something.
Thanks.
So I for me it was about being in the present, being fully engaged in what's going on around you or the people that are around you, but not really having any other distractions. I guess the ultimate sort of state of holding space might be where, sports people describe they get into the zone where they just not even, it's almost like they're not thinking, it's like it's just a flow and it just feels normal and natural, and they're not there in the moment every second of it. So that's my view of what that means.
Thanks. Yeah, being in the flow. being totally present. Anybody else?
So for me, holding space is about whatever environment that you're in, you acknowledge in terms of your feelings and what your response is to that environment, but not imposing those feelings on others. And then also acknowledging that everybody else in that environment, they have a right to express whatever it is that they're expressing, and just being aware of that and acknowledging it, but not trying to force anything. And it's just about being present.
Yeah. Not trying to force anything, acknowledging others. Rolf's got a friend. Anybody else? Anybody who's not shared so far in the group? Go on.
For me, it was about my space around here, internal and external, and how far I can let people in. So usually I need a little bit of distance. To what was said before is more how my personal space affects that space around me. Could be people, could be just a physical presence. I think I also like that term, in the zone, because to be in the zone really for me sort of encompasses all that. I may be playing on a team, right? But I need the space to be able to do the things I need to do so other people can do that. So to me, it's about this space here, right? If that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, and it has echoes of what Claire took us through earlier as well. Okay, anybody else? Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to share here. This really summarizes what we've just heard. So holding space means, there's a definition, means physically, mentally, and emotionally present for others. And as somebody alluded to, rather than telling people what to do, rather than forcing others. Present means being in the present moment, not the future, past, caught in an internal monologue. Bodily sensations are a source of information about the present. They enable us to sense space and hold space. So our contention here is that one of the most effective ways to have change happen, and paradoxically, and we'll talk about that, is actually not to simply promote the change that we want to see in the world. It's not to have our idea and push this into a group and propose it into a group and have the change being about the thing that we want to happen. And this is something that I've learned over the years of being a change agent. There's this strange paradox that the greater the degree to which I can detach from any specific outcome that I want to have happen, the greater the possibility for change now exists. And so if that's true, if part of the sort of magic of the alchemy of being a change agent is our ability to detach from specific outcomes and simply be, then this question of, well, how is it that I can simply be? What tools do I have available to me to inhabit spaces of being rather than attachments to outcomes? Well, one of the tools that we have available to us is our bodies. It is our ability to tune into our body and to choose an orientation, to choose an embodiment, to choose a way of being that's consistent with us being change agents operating at our best. So for me, when I did that exercise with Claire, what came up for me was joy. This big yellow sun of joy rising up through my body, and me slightly forward, sort of tilting forward. And so if I can spend a bit of time in quiet time before I go into any kind of a space of interaction with others and get centered on what my embodiment is, what my commitment is, then I'm creating space and holding space in a way that can be really powerful for others. And that can give the best shot, the best opportunity for change to emerge. Does that make any sense? Does that resonate?
I think so. However, just as you were saying it, we create words. Your language is just language. It doesn't really necessarily mean contextually to what we feel, to what our space is that what I heard in my head is that there's a potential, I think these words, right? This is what I think in my language, but I could actually be moving in a direction that actually embodies what I really feel physically and psychologically, maybe taking you away from the words you already thought. Like for me, it was exhilaration, but then like, okay, no, it's not really that. I've sort of moved down a path where something else is happening to me. I might not know what the language is for that, but I'm feeling the joy that you're saying. Not sure, again, if any of that made sense, but it made sense to me.
Well, I mean, it's interesting as well that we might find language difficult here because we're kind of moving in and out of verbal experience, right? Because so that's certainly my experience of working with these more subtle, I suppose, concepts is that at a certain point, language isn't so helpful.
Yeah. I think a point of it is also Rolf was there before, and to him, spaces from a German point of view was very different to what my sense as an Englishman space is. So I think language, and I'm always talking about language oftentimes, because we come from different backgrounds, really doesn't mean the same thing. So I think the idea that there's something out there that speaks louder than language, which I think is the direction you're taking us, is something that's inherent, and I think our language may be too loud that it's covering what is inherent to well-being.
Yeah, and that's one of the processes we've just been through does take us to some degree out of language, right? It starts to get us much more into our felt sensations in our body. And when it comes to holding space, we can use it in two ways. So we can use this container, we've got our body, to sense into the space, to be completely present into what's happening for others. And we can use it to generate space, right? So to be conscious of who we're being in that space. Are we being joy? Are we being fearlessness? Are we being these qualities that we want to exist in the space? Are we being that? And we can ask ourselves that question, in part through inquiring into what's going on in our body.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. And I know that this is subtle, right? And but the more that I train myself in this, the more that I train myself in spending time before going into interactions to get conscious to who I'm being, how I am in my body, the more powerful I can become as a change agent. Any other questions on that before we move on?
No, but would like to share a little.
Sure.
Yeah, I think most of the times, as a change agent, when change happening, I think what I can see, not just only physically, but emotionally from people, most of the time it's about, because of the change, people feelings insecure. And I think to me, holding space is, especially if you're a change agent, is because of the change and people feel lost, and they want some guidance and they want a comfort zone or safe space that they can hold on or rely on to be able to move from old to new. That's the holding space mean to me.
Yeah. That's powerful. Anybody else? Okay.
I wanted to ask if this, for me, this is a bit mysterious, this holding space and this bodily sensation of being present. I'm not sure if I'm completely understanding, but anyway, is this something that is this rooted in any psychological concepts or ideas or books or something that I could get more information about, or this is something that you created, or where can, if I want to check out more about this topic, specific topic?
Yeah. Well, Claire, do you want to come in on the references for embodiment, and I can talk a bit more generally?
Yeah, so I mentioned before the Strozzi Institute. I'll put it in the chat. And there's quite a few books by a chap called Richard Strozzi Heckler, who is the founder of the Strozzi Institute. And there's a lot of books on leadership and change. So sorry, typing his name is actually proving quite difficult. Yeah, so I would say that's a great place to start. There's also some folks that work in the area of neuroscience, which underpins a lot of this way of working as well. So I can put a few names in the chat for that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Is he a heckler in real life?
No, he's an extraordinarily chilled out man with beautiful language skills. Yeah, he's definitely not a heckler.
Yeah, and on these broader ideas of, I mean, there's a philosopher, Heidegger, who wrote Being and Time, and he's that's probably not something you're just going to go away and read, but the broader concept of this idea of beingness, and what does it mean? What does beingness mean in the context of the human experience? It's like, I mean, you're getting into existentialist, philosophers, but it's it's an interesting philosophical exploration to go down those routes. I think what I would say about that philosophical tradition, though, it really doesn't bring in embodiment. So I think it's quite powerful when you consider both.
It's kind of interesting that you say that, because Descartes, obviously, with his statement, I think, therefore I am. The thinking bit is the thing that I get lost on, because, animals have sense, right? So I sense, therefore I makes a lot more sense to me than I think. Half the time I don't think anyway, but there you have it. So sense seems to be more logical to me.
Yeah. But and this relationship to what I'm sensing and who I'm being, like if I go tight in my shoulders or in my tummy, those are places where I go tight. Mm-hmm. I've lost this commitment to a more open way of being. Like I just immediately know it, and my ability then to hold space, I know, is with a particular quality is compromised. Yeah. Through being able, but that over time, I learn these cues. Okay, my tummy's gone tight. Right. Okay. How can I'm getting attached. I'm getting hooked somehow. I'm getting tense. I'm getting triggered. Okay. So how can I come back? And again, this really, for a change agent, is the work. This is the work for me, right? We've got these professionalized processes that tell us that these are best practices for being a change manager, and they have their place. But it's all in the context of who you're being. Okay.
Can I just follow up on that? I like what you said about professionalized, I guess. What was the word you said? Professionalized processes, that's what you said.
Yeah.
And that actually rings an alarm bell, because when we're working for organizations, the space isn't ours, the space is someone else's. And so in that professionalized process, being able to change in the ways that we want to is a contradiction to the change to the organizations that we work in. We're circles and square boxes, right? So I just want to point that out. You sort of just raised an alarm for me, so thank you for that.
Well, yes, but there's a yes and here. And in the context of any given formal process, we're still making a choice about who we're being, about that process, let's say. And this is something I fall into, right? Oh, it's not Agile, or it's not my favorite version of Agile, or they're too waterfall, or they're too whatever. But that's my internal monologue. And when I'm in that, and when I'm making wrong the process that I'm in, I know I'm not being, in a powerful space. And I know.
So if you go back to that first exercise we did, the presumption of the people that don't want to change, right? Being very comfortable, it may help them. Right, it may help them open up to the possibilities, but they also may be just very comfortable with the organizational process, which is kind of the seatbelts that they're in, to be able to allow that change to happen.
Yeah, and again, that's part of the paradox here, is that we'll move on actually to paradox, but that we, in actual fact, by fully embracing those individuals who are completely wedded, right, to a particular way of doing things that's counter to the change that you want to see in the world, by fully embracing that and honoring it and celebrating it and holding space for them, you give yourself an even greater change of greater chance of having the change that you want to see happen. And I've had this in my professional experience, because often in the Agile context, now I've been in situations where I've had people who are fiercely committed to more, let's say, waterfall styles of working.
Yeah.
And the more that I listen, and the more that I amplified their voice, and the more that I had them feel heard, the more openness there was for considering other options.
Yeah, I like that.
And whenever I get off my internal monologue of I'm the Agile coach here, and again, this is another paradox, and the more I can take that identity away and just commit to who am I being at my best, what am I committed to, the greater the chance I have of seeing.
So you mean basically leave the pedestal at home.
Yeah.
Those are very good ideas. I like them. Really appreciate that.
Yeah. So we're constantly working with paradox, right? Amplifying the voices of the biggest resistors can be the fastest way to get change. Going slow and listening to everybody and going through all of the options might be the fastest way for you to get to change. But you can only hold paradox. You can only sit in paradox if you're able to hold space. If you're able to keep coming back to who I'm being, what am I feeling? What are the sensations? Am I getting hooked? How can I unhook? Can I unhook? And that brings us to time. It's titled together, what are the secrets of being one of the best change agents in the world? Embody your commitment. Know your commitment and embody it. Master this idea of holding space and embrace paradox. And we'll leave you with one offer here. If you're particularly interested in the embodiment aspect of this, and Claire and I put down a primer together at the Leading Inside Out, the online website. I'm sure we can fire this out as a link as well. All right, it's time. Thank you. Claire, do you want to say one? I know I've sort of rushed through to the end there, but.
No, you wrapped us up very well, very succinctly. Thanks, Richard. And thanks everyone for your presence this evening and for sharing this space with us.
Hey, Richard, can you just pop back to that last slide? I just wanted to see that. You kind of ran through that very quickly. Okay, great. Thank you. That's what it said. That was very good. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody. Lovely to listen to your voice, Mr. Atherton. And you gave me some great ideas, so really appreciate it. And Nabil, thanks for getting this together.
No worries. Thank you so much, Richard and Claire. That was super interesting and really insightful. Guys, normally do a round of applause, so join me if you want to unmute and applause or give some thumbs up for our lovely hosts.
Thank you.
My dog has gone crazy now.
My cat's started.